Well, guys, we do have a bit of an interesting situation regarding the Oakland A's situation. We know very likely, probably 95% chance, maybe even more, that they will be moving to Las Vegas. There is some things to iron out. But how about this that just came out? Warriors Joe Lacob. If the A's were for sale, we might be interested. So this is coming from the Warriors owner. We know how good of a franchise they've had, the crazy dynasty run. And I'm just going to go through this article, talk about it, kind of a weird dynamic with the team likely moving. All the Oakland A's fans obviously wanting John Fisher to sell the team. The fact that the relocation fee got waived, that really hurts the chances of a sale. If that didn't get waived, maybe there would be an opportunity for the Athletics to stay in Oakland. I do think at this point, if you're comparing situations, Oakland versus Tampa Bay, because these are the two teams we've said for a while now are rumored to be possibly on the move. The Rays situation is still up in the air, but the recent report we got is that they're staying. The A's obviously likely leaving. I would say just comparing the situations, I think, I'd rather have Oakland keep their team based on potential attendance, based on the, lucrativeness of the Bay Area, the population density, the fact that the Coliseum is so bad. It's a hard situation to parse because Tropicana Field is also terrible. So you have both of those situations working against the teams and their attendances. And also the other thing, the other problem with the Rays situation is the location, but apparently they're not changing the location. Either way, I do think if you just compared them one for one and you took the ownership group completely out of it, because that's what decides these things, I would say Oakland deserves to keep their team more than Tampa Bay, because you have to also understand Tampa Bay in terms of their attendance. With all of these great years, it's still at the way bottom. And even if you want to argue, it's a situation where Tampa Bay, it's a bad spot in St. Petersburg, again, they're not moving that location. At least we don't think they are. It would be a different argument if you moved to the Tampa area from St. Petersburg for your new stadium. The other thing you also have to note, when Oakland was really good in 2019, they did not have good attendance. I will say that. And also, like in the mid 2010s when they had playoff teams. So if we want to be fair to the Rays, if we really want to compare these situations, neither of these teams, even when they've been good, have drawn very well. Although at this point, it's a complete clown show with the A's. I mean, I don't even know what the A's were doing with some of the trades that they made. Like the Matt Olson trade, they didn't even get top prospects back for him. It just doesn't make sense. Even if you want to tank your team, why would you not, if you are the ownership or the GM, why would you not want to get back like a young 17-year-old super prospect for one of your best players? It's not like the kid's gonna play. You can still tank. The kid's just gonna be in your minor league system. That's why those trades that the Athletics made, they were just complete negligence. It just doesn't make any sense. And, the Sean Murphy trade, they got nothing back. Matt Olson, they got barely anything back. It just doesn't, get a young prospect who's 17 and is like really good. Instead, they got scraps. But guys, we're going to get to this. Does this change anything with John Fisher selling? I don't think so. But we will talk about Joe Lacob. The owner of the Warriors was at a Thursday news conference at the Chase Center, which is the Warriors' home, and he announced a WNBA expansion team coming to San Francisco. I'm not going to talk about the WNBA, but that is very strange considering the WNBA loses money. You would think the last thing that the WNBA would be getting is an expansion team, but what do I know? Afterward, he was asked about the possibility of further elevating his Bay Area sports footprint by buying the A's should they come up for sale in a potential sale by John Fisher. That would have to be MLB, the owners, possibly voting against the move, which we do not think is going to happen, or possibly them saying, no, you have to pay the relocation fee, and John Fisher being cheap, maybe he might say, I just want to sell the team, whatever. Joe Lacob says, quote, "We've over the years been obviously very interested. You all know that I've said, and if for whatever reason Fisher decided it wasn't going to work, sure, we might be interested, but I'm not like throwing my hat in the ring, and I don't want MLB to be mad at me either, so I don't want to get in their way." So he says he would be very interested If it happens to where John Fisher sells the team, again, it does not look like that's happening, but if you are an A's fan, this is at least a glimmer of hope when it comes to potentially keeping their team, whether it's with Lacob, who seemingly is a very successful owner considering the Golden State Warriors, and you can say, well, the ownership doesn't have much impact in terms on team success. I mean, they hire the GM, it goes through it. There's obviously a little bit of nuance involved in it. So the Warriors, the success that they've had, if you're an A's fan, certainly Joe Lacob buying your team and keeping you in Oakland and possibly, investing more. Obviously, that's been one of the huge issues with the A's. It's really a snowball effect. This goes all the way back to the 90s with the Coliseum, kind of being seen as an average MLB stadium. You add Mount Davis on top of it, it makes it 100 times worse. It immediately becomes the worst stadium in MLB, and they haven't done a single renovation since then because their thought process is, well, originally they couldn't renovate it at all because it was a multi-purpose, and you're not going to take seats out because the Oakland Raiders were playing there up until like 2016, and then after 2016, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. The real move on what the Oakland Athletics should have done, they should have already had a new ballpark probably by 2008 or 2009, I would say, and just completely leave the Coliseum, and their new ballpark at this point would be like 13 or 14 years old, and they would have a much healthier ecosystem when it came to MLB because they would probably have significantly better attendance. You can take a look at all of the different Howard Terminal renderings. Now, the A's still are trying to cling to the leverage of the whole stadium lease with the Oakland Coliseum and possibly trying to coax an expansion team a la the Cleveland Browns by manipulating the lease and saying the lease is up in 2024. If you want a place to play, if the Athletics want a place to play, the city of Oakland has said you can play here until 2020, the end of 2027 when your new stadium gets built, but we need an expansion team in return for allowing you to play at the Oakland Coliseum. I think that's what's going on right now with the Oakland mayor flying during, the All-Star break and pitching the Howard Terminal proposal. Everyone, thinks, they're pitching it because they still want John Fisher to choose that one or they want him to sell the team. I actually think that was more of an expansion type pitch, like we have this together, although it has been reported they do need to work out some of the kinks of the Howard Terminal proposal when it comes to where the funds are coming from, because that is going to be a massive project. It's just not the ballpark. I think the ballpark's around, $1.2 to $1.5 billion. It's going to be very expensive, located in California. We all know that. It is an open ballpark, and it's a smaller ballpark surrounded by a bunch of trees. There's been a few different renderings of it. I actually like their first version better than their second version, but right now, the circular one, not the square one, is the one that they would probably choose. At least those are like the recent renderings, and when the city of Oakland, the mayor presented it to Manfred, they had like a 500-page report with the full renderings, and it was the circle design. So when it comes to this entire thing, I still think this deal's going through. This thing broke back in April. I said, there's going to be kinks. We've seen the kinks, of course. I mean, they didn't even have renderings there. And then they throw together disheveled 3 different renderings of a weird capsule, half circle, enclosed stadium that just looked really bad. And I really hope they don't go with a circle design. But I've gone over this when it comes to the Las Vegas Stadium saga. The issue is the 9 acres. They need more acres, and they need to build a square design. If it is going to be enclosed, it cannot be a circle. It cannot be an Astrodome 2.0. It cannot be a Tropicana Field 2.0. If you're doing a circle stadium that's a dome, it's very hard to pull something like that off unless the roof is fully translucent. Like the Orlando MLB expansion proposal, that would be like one of the only ways you could try and do it, and even that is kind of a weird proposal. That's more of an attachment where they've got an entire complex attached with a roof the circular roof on at the front. But either way, guys, this is definitely something to watch. I mean, for MLB, this is a bad look considering the owners are going to be voting on this, and they seemingly have a buyer here, possibly. We're not going to say, he would definitely do it. I mean, he already owns the Warriors, but if he comes out and says he's extremely interested if Fisher were to sell, are they really going to allow this relocation to go through? I think they are. I think MLB is done with Oakland. They're sick of it. But then again, you would think if MLB is done with Oakland, they would also be done with Tampa Bay, considering they have very similar issues. And Oakland, is actually in a better place when you look at playoff attendance. We can virtually guarantee there's no way they would be drawing under 20,000 people for a playoff game. They've just got too big of a population in that area in comparison to St. Petersburg and the horrible stadium location. So I would say Oakland might have a leg up in terms of potential attendance. But again, both of these teams have been in the playoffs recently. They both are still at the bottom in terms of attendance, and it comes down to a situation, well, is it the stadium? Is it the fans? Is it the owner? For Oakland, I would say it's a combination of the three. For the Rays, I would lean more towards the stadium location, which, by the way, is not going to be changing. And then also, I would say it's just a lower fan support in that area. There's a lower fan support for MLB baseball in the state of Florida. We've already seen this with the Marlins. So in comparing these two situations, I would say if one of them stayed and one of them left, I would have Oakland probably stay, just in terms of population density, what I've seen from their fan base recently in comparison to the Rays. Now, if the Rays moved from St. Petersburg to Tampa, I would reevaluate it. I would, but just based off the situation we have right now, you have Joe Lacob coming out saying, I'm very interested in potentially buying. How does that work if you are an Oakland A's fan? Well, I think there has to be something with MLB owners coming out and not wanting a team in Las Vegas. And obviously, they all do want a team in Las Vegas. You would at least expect it. Although there have been a few cracks in the Las Vegas structure I wouldn't say they're cracks because overall NFL is raking in money with an NFL team being in Vegas. They've got a beautiful stadium. It is a significant step up from Oakland. But let's be honest, that Vegas Raiders team, their home field advantage is horrific. Like they're hosting a game against the Packers, and it's probably going to be 60% Packers fans, or at least like 50-50. It's terrible. But I guess NFL doesn't really care about that. And I also will caution people, comparing NFL and MLB, it's impossible, guys. It's just based off of the overall home games. There's so many more home games for MLB. There's such a significant supply and a lot less demand than NFL, where you're only getting that finite 8 or 9 home games. So I do think MLB, the owners, Rob Manfred, they want a team in Las Vegas any means necessary, even with this news coming out, even with the idea that probably it would be smarter to do the Howard Terminal proposal than the new Rays, gas district proposal, in my opinion. But we might be splitting hairs here either way. Maybe both of them should move based on horrible attendance, even when they've had good years. It's like a chicken or the egg thing. You have a terrible stadium. Is the stadium the cause for the bad attendance? Are the fans the cause? Is the owner the cause? Normally it's some type of combination. It's finding the actual ratio on the combination that is the tough thing to think about. So guys, that is the update. We do have potential owners if John Fisher were to sell, but it is still looking likely that we will get the renderings on the new stadium in Las Vegas. And then the immediate focus, if it gets approved by MLB, then we start the whole saga of Oakland trying to use the Coliseum as a bargaining chip to get an expansion team by saying, you can play here for 3 years, you'll have a home. We need an expansion team after that because we know MLB is expanding and they're in bed right now with Nashville. It's either going to be Nashville or Charlotte on the eastern side of the United States, and then you're looking at Salt Lake City, maybe Oakland, maybe Portland. Oakland could try and use that as a bargaining chip. They already have the proposal, the Howard Terminal. They just have to get their finances and funding in order. It'll be something to watch. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.